We'll continue with our module 5, and in this module we'll be looking at fillets. And fillets are one of the engineering primary key dress up features applications where it could be applied because of aesthetic look, it could be applied because of stress reduction, and you could apply this in order to save materials. And there are a bunch of different technical regions as well in order to accommodate or apply your fillets. There are three different types of fillets. And if you could look at your mouse itself, which you are using in your computer or your keyboard, you will get bunch of different fillets, corner fillets, and also inside the keyboard, all the keyboard letters also are filleted. And there are bunch of different kind of fillets: uniform radius fillet, variable radius fillet, and tangent fillet, face to face fillet, and also other different derived fillets you can have. So let us look at the different type of fillets. And if you go to the edge fillet, there you need to have your radius, and also you need to select your object where you need to apply that. And the propagation is very important. How do you propagate that fillet? By maintaining tangency or different conditions. And I was discussing about the constant radius or variable radius, that is also very important. And also you need to have the variation in cubic pattern or different other patterns, and other different options we'll explore. Let us look at this particular example, and where we are selecting this particular edge in our case 1, and we are seeing the resulting fillet output. And in this particular case we are selecting the face, and resulting to this face, these are the common edges and where the fillet will be applied in all these corresponding edges. So we'll see how our particular selection can produce different output. And also in this particular case, if you select the edge, this particular edge, and all the tangential loop will be filtered. And this is basically the tangency option, and that how to use. And fillet also you can create using minimal option, that also will be looking into. And here we can see how to apply to objects and fillet to features. You can see here is not propagated, so intersected features in between you can apply, that also will be looking into. And we'll see some complex cases like variable radius by specifying radii at two different endpoint, and here by specifying additional advanced controls. And here you can see the cubical options, how you can control the radius. And here you can see the variable radius by using the linear options. And here you can see some of the complex combination where two different edges are meeting, and how you can control by using the trim ribbon. And here you can see fillet created within different values of conics at different corners, that also will be looking. And in this particular model we saw how you can trim the options and finally apply the fillets, and edge distortion to accommodate the fillet radius over that, because when this will be fillet will be applied, this edge will be disturbed, and how to maintain that, that is very key and important in complex situation. And after retaining the edges, you can see this edge is straight and fillet is distributed, but here you can see after fillet it is distorted. So how to take care of that one, that will be looking into. And also we'll be looking into the circle fillet options. And here you can see the setback options, how you can apply to the multi corners. So there are a bunch of different advanced fillet options that we'll be looking into. And the variable radius fillet, and where we can stop with respect to a particular plane, and I do not want to propagate throughout this edge. I need till certain distance protocol. I need to limit it with respect to that. How to do that, that will be looking. And also in this particular case we are limiting in between, and how to do that. And when you need to fillet multiple edges by different control setbacks, that also will be looking into. And next is the face to face fillet. In between these two faces, how we can propagate the fillet and adjust that with the radius. And here is a little bit advanced option where the curve is the primary dominant for controlling the contour of the curve and the shape of your particular fillet. The fillet radius is controlled through the curve when that is applied. And in very typical cases, you can use it. You do not get bunch of operations for that. And tritangent, if you have a tritangent, then you can select the three faces where the tangent will be driven, like this face and that face and the top face. By combining these three faces, how the tritangent will be created. And these are the options which you need to use here, and which face you need to fillet and which face you need to remove. I need to remove the top faces and I need to apply fillet to these two parallel surfaces, so that you have to select. That will look in our example. And then we'll move to chamfer. So fillet is completely loaded with bunch of operations, so we'll move one by one. So we cannot skip any options. All the options are important here. Let us start with the 6-17 output. And if you go to 6-17, here you can see this. And here we are applying to this edge. And here you can see the bunch of different options, and out of that the fillet is found in this particular applied feature. Here you can see this is the edge fillet, and then you have the face-to-face fillet and you have tritangent. So let us go to the edge fillet. And when you go to edge fillet, you will see something dialog box like this. And here you have constant and variable. The radius is given here and object to fillet. And I'm selecting this edge. And when you select this particular edge, this is red highlighted. And you can see with a green annotation the radius. The 10 is shown here. And if you see the preview, this is the preview. And if you go to OK, this will be applied here. Now, let us double click this for editing. And here we'll look at the propagation at tangency, minimal, intersection, and intersection with selected features. And this is the default. And now we'll open our this part to compare the final output. If you double click this, the tangency is there and edge is selected, and 30 mm is the diameter, yes, radius, and rest of all the options we are not using. If you go to more also, we are not using more here. We'll explore that later. And you can see the preview, and this is the output. And anytime you double click, you can edit that to your corresponding new values and go for OK. This is the next case, the 6-18. And next we'll be looking at this particular model where we'll be applying over the surface, and we'll compare with the output also. So we'll go to the fillet, and here we'll pick this surface instead of your edge. And here you can see all the four corners have been picked and tangency options. And if you see preview, these all are selected. And this is the output which you can expect. And you can compare with the 6-20. This is the output. And if you look at this, double click this, only we are using the tangency. The diameter is radius is 20, and this face is selected, and that's all. Next we'll be looking at our next model. This is the base, and we'll try to compare with our final output, this one, where these all edges are selected. And if you look at this, double click this, here the tangency option is selected and you picked this edge, and 15 mm is the radius. We'll go to our model and we'll go to fillet, and we'll pick this edge. All are picked, and I do not want this. I want only this particular edge. So how to pick that is very important here. You can directly remove this clear selection, and when you go for this, the selection filter, this is very important. Whatever the selection filter you have, that you can see this only the loop is selected. So you can use the selection filter to only pick the edges. And here whatever the radius you need to apply, you can apply, and finally you can see the preview. This is the output. Next, we'll be looking at this model, only how to limit it till a particular edge. And if you double click this, you can see the minimal. And if you see the tangency, this whole loop is selected. And if you just go to the minimal, what happens is it will be stopped till this location and go for OK. And this is the output. So whenever you have like this different requirement for your fillet, you can control that and you can apply that. Next, we'll be looking at our next model. Here we'll be looking at the fillet where we are selecting the intersection. So intersection are the item are the places where we are trying to pick this. And how do you do that? So if you delete this particular fillet and go for fillet and pick this as intersection and object to select is this, you can see all 8 locations or 6 locations wherever the surface are intersected are picked wherever I have my fillet requirement, and you can see the preview and go for OK. You see this bottom side, you see this top side, all these intersected one will be picked where you can very easily select it, and without picking your multiple edges at a time, you can directly pick and go for your operations. And in this particular model, we'll be looking into the intersection with selected features. So wherever you have the selected features, here 2 elements you can see are selected. Only between these 2 elements you need to have it. So how do you do that? If you delete this and go to fillet, you choose this option as intersect with selected features, and selected features you can select this particular feature, and between this and now the object where you want to fillet, that you can specify. This or this particular face, and you can see the preview. Here it is applied. And if you want to apply more filters, you can add multiple objects also. Go to selection and add this. So let me check it. 2 elements are very important, whatever you are selecting, this and this. So you have to pick this. And now you can see these 2 items are selected. Go to preview and go to OK, so that only these parts are applied and rest of all are ignored. So just you have to pick that particular surfaces. If you double click this here, you can see the 2 elements. Go to filter, and here you can see these 2 pads are selected. So just you click it, you can remove and you can replace also and pick that whatever you need. Suppose I'll pick this is also there. So I'll just remove this. So this will be removed. Now it will be terminated. So like that, you can apply these multiple surfaces and you can control the particular intersected features within your selection. Let us look at our next example where we'll look at the variable radius and variable radius fillet after specifying additional control and cubic and linear options. So let us open our file, this particular file, and we'll be going for fillet, and here we'll be going to variable and we'll select the object, the edge where you need to fillet, and here you can see the starting radius is, let us say, 10, and this radius is, let us say, 22, and you can have the variable radius, and here you can have the cubic or linear. If you go to cubic and see the preview, this is the output, and if you go to linear and see the preview, linearly that will be connected. And let me show you one by one. Cubic, preview, and go to OK. So this will be smooth and cubical. And if you double click this and go to linear, preview, This will be the output. Next, we'll be looking at this variable radius with cubic or the linear. In this particular rounded case, 628 or 629. Here you could able to see this particular option when you choose the variable. So let me select the variable here, and let me pick some cylindrical surface, and maybe this dimension will be 10 enough for me, and go for OK. And these are the cubical patterns which you can apply. Or if you go to linear, this will be linearly applied. So the contour will be different in both the cases. And this conic parameters will be looking in our coming example. This trim ribbon also will be looking in our coming example. So let me delete that. And in this particular example, we'll be looking into the trim ribbon case. And in this example, we'll be looking at the destroyed accommodation. So this is the input files, and let us compare with our final model where we'll be getting the final output, this versus this. And if you see this here, whatever we have applied, here there is a trim ribbon. If you switch off the trim ribbon and see preview, do you want to add explicitly a keep edge, otherwise the system will compute one, and just you go for close. So solution is not done. I'll go to just undo. So just you zoom this and try to understand this. What is happening here is the two objects per fillet you have chosen. If I'll just clear the selection and try to show you this and this, both we are selecting. In between we need to show the continuity, and trim ribbon we picked by maintaining tendency. And if you see the preview, what is happening is these two are getting connected smoothly, and because of this particular options you could able to stop this overflow, and this also particular communications you can do nicely. If you look at this particular example without using this particular options, and if you look at here the edge disturbed to accommodate the fillet radius, and if you try to use that the model after retaining the edges, if you compare with this final output, here you can see the preview. If this is the output and you try to use this, here is the edge to keep. You can see there is an option inside this extended panel, edge to keep, where you can select the edge to keep and you do. And if you see the preview, that will be done. But what about this side? And if I'll pick this edge also and see the preview, this will be also taken care, and your fillet is smoothly operated between them. So that is what our this previous model is does not have. If you double click this, only you have picked this edge, and if you go to keep edges, this you can keep and see the preview. And if it is not propagating this side, if the block size would be less, then it would disturb this side also. So that is also a very important factor here. So if we look at this particular sketches, and instead of 61, if I'll go for let us say 50, and now you can see this is trying to propagate this side, and inside this cage, this is the orientation basically. So because of that, you have all the distortion, and you could change all these dimension. Let us say this is 110 and this is 90. This could be like this. Now you can see this is almost approaching this side. So what you can do is, the beautiful thing which you can do here is you can pick this and these edges, and you can protect this propagation also if it is not moving that side. So this is the way how you can control your propagation, and you can stop reducing your distortion over those selected edges, and you can have nicely blended geometry where you can apply your fillets. And in this particular figure, we'll be looking at the setback fillets. These are all options we will be looking into. And here, what we are doing is the object to fillet the three different edges, tangents you are maintaining. And when you go to the trim ribbons, and if you switch off and see this output, this is the output. And if you go to trim ribbons, so nicely they will be joined. So let me show you how to do this from scratch. Go to the fillet, pick your edges, and now the tangents is there, and go to trim ribbons and see the preview. And now you can see this is the output. But if you compare with this particular model, this is not the same. So the setback distance you have to specify. That is what is our intention here. Can you see this something 25? So which is not controlled here. So here, if you see this setback distance, that does the difference. And if you, let us say, go for 35 as the setback distance, so this will be the 35. So that is the missing point which you can add to your fillet. So let us say I'll be selecting these three different edges. Go to the fillet, select one by one. Okay, and see the preview. The fillet is equally distributed, but I need to control the setbacks. And here is the setback by default 10. And let me go to 30 and see the preview and go to OK. So the blend corner is very important wherever you need to apply the setbacks. That is again another important point. And here now if you go to 35, that will be propagated and that will be done. So to keep addition, that is the blended corner, that is the common corner where you need to apply the setback and the setback distance from here. Here you can see the 35, 35 and 35. From some edges you may not need that much, 25 you may need, and from some end you may require like 50, no issue. And if you go to the preview, what happens is the beautifully they will be blended accordingly. So it can be variable also. So these are the by default assigned unit like 25, and later on you can change that, and I could change this to 20 as well. But here the list values will be updated, and accordingly you can set your setback features. That is very important options which frequently we used to use. And next we'll be looking at the fillet created without the circle fillet, and what is this option that I will be discussing. So we'll be taking our model. This is the output which we are looking at, some of the options. These are the existing models. Okay. So what is happening here is the fillet created without the circle fillet. So here the fillet is propagating this way, and these are the fillets available as well. And how do I apply this circle fillet, that we'll see. Then we'll go to the variable radius. So let us look at the circle fillet, how to apply. Let us open that file for circle fillet and see that uh, this one. So what happens is in this particular case, if you go for this particular option constant, you won't get this circle fillet. But if you see this particular pattern, the fillet created without the circle fillet option selected, then you have to go to your variable so that this circle fillet will be selected. And if you go to preview, you can see this as the output. But if you go to constant and go to OK, you won't be able to see this. So it creates the circular fillet. If you click this, if you won't click, it will follow that spine and create that. So this is the difference which you can see, that how to create that. Just you have to go for your selection, provided you have to go to variable, and here you need to select your object to be filleted. And here you can see the 4 elements with the cubical or linear pattern you can have. You can see the preview. And if you select this fillet, what happens is one of the specification cannot be taken into account, and that will fail. So you try to create that without selecting the circular fillet within this variable. And if you go to the conical, this will be a straight line. But in case of a variable, what happens is you can vary this typical depth and still you can follow the pattern. And maybe here it is 20, no issue at all. And if you go to this, this pattern will be followed. So critical shapes can be taken care by following the circular pattern deselected. Next, we'll be looking at the variable radius fillet and other options in our coming session.